Hi, everyone. Thank you once again for taking the time to join this fraud lesson. And we're going to be talking about our second lesson today, which is the Fraud 102, focusing more on phishing scams. So, as normal, I will be switching off my camera so that we can focus on the learnings that we're going to be going through today. So, please enjoy. And as mentioned previously in all the other classes, if you have any questions or you'd like to reach out to us, please follow us on our socials, and then, of course, reach out to us either via our website or any of the social media platforms that we're currently active on so that we can best assist you when it comes to personal finances and how to have a healthy relationship with money. Enjoy, guys. Alrighty. Okay. Waiting for my laptop to respond. So, we're going to be learning about um, fraud prevention, right? So, firstly, fraud prevention 102, ideally talking around what is financial fraud. And this is what we learned about in our previous lesson, where we were learning more around financial fraud. And of course, as the broad term, financial fraud is a broad term that refers to any intentional act of deception involving financial transactions for the purpose of personal gain. Okay. And it encompasses a wide range of illegal activities where an individual or entity knowingly deceives another to achieve financial advantage. Okay. And then just to recap, okay, the key elements that we talked about last week, well, not really last week, but in our last session, um, was that, of course, so these are the three things that you need to look out for you to be able to see if you've been defrauded or not. Firstly, deception. Okay. The first one is always deception, right? Because this person is trying to be able to use some form of lies, omissions, or manipulation to try and mislead you so that you can be able to actually be defrauded. Okay. And then financial loss. Okay. There's always an aspect of financial loss when it comes to fraud, because as the victim, you are then finding yourself in a situation where people are now going to now have access to your finances. And then as the victim, you're going to have some form of a loss when it comes to your personal finances or the business finances, whichever aspect of your life that has been targeted. And then illegality. Okay, so of course, fraud is illegal. So that is why it's done in the way that it's actually done by these fraudsters, and they have always going to have some malicious intent, because they're trying to be able to use deception so that you can suffer financial loss and they can gain from your financial loss, and therefore it is illegal. Right. So part of the recap is just to look at what we learned in our last class, and then, of course, focusing on what we're going to be learning today. So, investment fraud was what we learned more about in our first class, which where we actually dissected all the different types of financial fraud and how to actually be able to notice the types of scams and how to stay away from them. Right. So, if you missed that class, please go to our YouTube channel and be able to actually um, upskill yourself with upskill yourself with the information regarding fraud awareness when it comes to investment fraud, right? And today we're going to be focusing more on phishing scams, right? And ideally with phishing scams, it's always a tricky one, and I wanted to actually focus on it specifically because there are so many phishing scams out here, and you just need to always be very vigilant and aware so that you do not fall trapped to this type of phishing scam as an individual, right? Okay, so firstly, what is a phishing scam, guys? So, phishing scams are fraudulent attempts by cyber criminals to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information such as passwords, credit card numbers, or other personal details. These scammers, right, typically involve fake communications like emails, text messages, or websites that mimic legitimate institutions such as banks, online retailers, or even government agencies, right? So isn't it interesting? Because Ideally, we always get this form of communication, be it you're going to get communication from your bank, communication from your retail store, service provider of sort. So you're always going to be getting some form of communication, be it via text, via email, right? Even via phone calls, right? But text and emails have now become more prominent because those are normally the types of communications people opt for when they are buying some form of an item or getting services or so forth. So now getting an email from a fraudster is more likely versus a telephone call, right? Because previously they used to actually do telephone calls and try and actually solicit information from you via telephone by pretending to be someone they're not. Okay, so this type of scamming in terms of using, your digital footprint on emails and messages, right, is a bit even more trickier, which means that is why it's important for us to be even more alert and awake when we're handling any form of email communication or text messages or anything that has to require some form of personal information or require some form of payment. Cool. And then we now need to look at what is the goal of phishing scams, right? So ideally, the entire goal of a phishing scam is to have access to information, right? So if you think about it, a phishing scam is not going to be successful if the scammer fails to get your information, right? So yes, they can send you an email, right? You can just block the email. But the scam actually starts becoming successful for the scammer when you click on the link you're not supposed to, when you actually start interacting with the scammer, and they further scam you and deceive you even more because now you are engaging, with these culprits, right? So, trying to actually get access to information is the number one goal of the phishing scam because with that information, they can do there's so many things they could do with your information, identity fraud and so forth, identity theft, and so many other things, right? Aside from just having direct access to your maybe accounts and other things. But having your information actually gives them the allowance to be able to perform this type of scam. So if they don't have the personal information, then it's not successful for them to be able to continue with the scam because they need your personal information for them to proceed. All right. So with that said, I want us to actually start looking at how to identify a phishing scam, right? So we're going to be looking at these few items that you need to always think around, right? Before you click on an email link. If something looks dodgy, right, guys always say, hey, if it doesn't feel right, listen to your senses and be like, if your gut tells you, nope, this I shouldn't click here, don't click there. If this seems to be too good to be true, trust me, it probably is, right? So firstly, generic greetings, hey? So if you noticed with phishing emails, often use vague salutations like dear customer, dear user instead of your name, right? Because I mean, you're not the only person they're trying to scam. So normally these fraudsters would have a generic email typed out to target, and they could be sending it maybe to maybe 1,000 users, right? So normally what happens is if there's been a data leak, and I'm sure if you've heard of data leaks, if you've not heard of the term data leak, then just Google it and to just better understand what a data leak is. But just briefly, a data leak is basically where there's been some form of breach, right, in terms of customer information, it could be emails, addresses, physical addresses, email addresses, cell phone numbers, right? And so it's called a data leak because people who were not meant to have access to that information managed to get access to that information, right? And so therefore, when the organization that has experienced that breach in terms of their security and lost that information, then would probably send out communication to all the customers, right? To say that there's been a data leak, so please be very vigilant and careful because now it means someone out there has access to your email address, access to your cell phone number, and they should not have access, right? So that is why these emails always have generic greetings because they're not targeting just one individual. They could be sending this particular email, but they're sending it maybe to 10,000 people at the same time. And they're just hoping one of them responds or actually clicks on the link, right? So immediately when you click on the link, unfortunately, it all goes downhill from there, right? They install malware into your laptop or your phone, and that's how they start accessing information, right? So that's another one, spoofed URLs, right? And I've got nice emails, nice spam, not spam, but phishing scam emails that I've received that we're going to look at so that you can better understand what I mean around spoofed emails, spoofed URLs. So basically, a spoofed URL, it looks legitimate, right, at first glance, but when you click on the email address, and that's what I say to people, click on the email address, right, so that it opens up the email and then you can actually read the email. Is it really from SARS, right? Is it really from AfriHost, right? Is it really from any of your banking institutions that you could be banking with, right? So for you to be able to actually identify whether this is a scam or not, you need to be able to do some form of due diligence on your end. So, firstly, click on the email, right? Don't just take it at first glance. You're like, oh, it's just written SARS, and be like, oh, it is actually South African revenue. Excuse me, revenue services, but it could not be, right? So you need to be vigilant. Click on the email itself and then read the actual full email so that you can see that is this the correct email address. Also, Google, right, guys? It's important to verify. That's the only way you're going to protect yourself. Verify the information first before you click on anything, right? So click on an email, click on the email address so that you can read the entire email. If something still seems a bit dodgy for you, rather contact, right? Go online and look for the contact details of the organization. Don't use the contact details on the email. Call the organization based on what you find on Google. Call them and verify and just make them aware that I'm just doing my triple checking, as a consumer so that I don't fall victim to these kind of phishing scams, right? Then, of course, request for immediate action. That is another one. Remember, we spoke about this in our first lesson that when it comes to these type of scams, they always need to have some form of urgency, right? I mean, they always want to try and have you to do something quickly. It's immediate, immediate. You really need to do it now, 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 now. So the reason, this is important for fraudsters, right? It's because they want you to not think and they want you to just react. And if you don't take a second to just think before you act, then chances are you would click on that link, right? Because you're going to be excited. You get an email that says you've won R1 million. You're not going to be thinking twice. You're going to click and you're like, oh, how did I win this million? That's how they want you to react. But we need to stay calm, right? And we need to do what? Be rational, guys. Let's be rational. Let's be realistic, okay? Because some of these scams don't actually make sense if you start thinking about it. And when we go through the examples, I'll tell you exactly what I mean, right? So, immediate action is always another telltale for how to identify a phishing scam because everything is urgent. It needs to be done now. This amazing deal is going to expire. Blah blah blah. Right? There's always some form of immediate action that is trying to be shoved down your throat to try and trigger your responses in terms of let me just get this thing now. Let me get it done right now. And that's where unfortunately you fall trap to the scam. Okay, so let's look at the other three items. So if we say that it's too good, if it's too good to be true, right? If it's too good to be true, the offer, if guys, come on, this one, right? This this is such a telltale, but unfortunately, so many people fall victim to these type of scams where you get an email, you get an SMS, right, that says to you you've won a lottery amount of X amount of money, maybe from whichever country. I mean, how do you win a lotto when you've never played that lotto? Right, let's think about it. I mean, for you to win a prize, don't you need to enter a competition first? So that's why I'm saying that, I mean, some of these scams, it's like they don't make sense. But unfortunately, because we're not rational and we don't want to use common sense, sometimes we get excited. And unfortunately, the worst case scenario is when people are desperate, right? Because when people are desperate, they tend to just logic literally just, I don't know, does not exist. When sometimes people are desperate because people are willing to do anything, then that's purely the definition of desperation. You're willing to do anything just for you to be able to get whatever you're trying to get at that point in time, right? So if you look at it from that angle, I mean, guys, come on. Um, there's no way. Like, how are you winning a prize without entering any competition? How do you win a lotto, jackpot when you don't even have a ticket for that lotto, right? So impersonation of trusted sources, right? That's another good one that they do. So normally, the whole phishing scam works because people are impersonating trusted sources, like, for example, they impersonate your bank, they'll impersonate the SARS, South African receiver revenue services, they'll impersonate government departments that are offering tenders, right? And they will impersonate service providers. I've received a few, like, for example, AfriHost, right? I've received a lot of from AfriHost. I've received from Netflix, right? I've received from for Showmax. So there's so many of these scams, right? You can't keep track. But when you use your three ways to identify if this is a phishing scam or not, then you're able to actually be able to detect if this is true or false. And like I said, Google, right, and is your best friend. And of course, contacting the service provider directly just to verify if the information on the email is correct and is valid, because that's the only other way you're going to be able to protect yourself. Cool. And then, of course, unusual payment requests. That's another telltale, guys, because I mean, if your bank always says to you, let's say, okay, let's not use the bank. Let's say you use some form of you purchased items, right, from a website that you normally buy clothing and items from, right? And then the process that normally when you've done your purchase, you always probably process the payment right after you clear your cart, right? So that you can clear your cart. But then the next thing, you now start getting emails from this service provider, right? And the email has some form of payment request that is very unusual to you because you use this service provider quite frequently. And now it's strange that they're coming and giving you different payment terms, and you're like, okay, what's happening here? So that's another telltale. Why would a service provider, right, change the way they operate in terms of their business operations, right? It does not make sense. So that's another way for you to realize that, hey, this does not make sense. Is this true or not? Just to take a step back and be like, does this make sense? Should I do this? Because immediately, what is your response? You clicking on the link, right? Remember, I told you the goal, right? When we started, we talked about the goal of phishing scams. And the goal is for them to get you clicking on the links. The goal is for them to get you engaging with what they have sent you. And if you don't do that, right, then they are not going to win regarding their phishing scam. So what you do is just block and delete emails, block and delete any messages that you are getting from unwanted solicitors, right? So, like I mentioned, we're going to be going through some of the examples that I've received part of these type of phishing scams, right? First one, I've received so many of these. I mean, look, this one was sent on the 4th of September, right? Like this month. And I mean, I receive these type of emails on a daily basis, okay? So this is a individual who's claiming to be part of the employment and labor department, right? And they are trying to get me to participate and send them my information for them to be able to for me to be able to participate in this tender, right? And like I said, there's always telltales, guys. Look at this, right? good day, sir or ma'am, right? And then write blah, 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 blah. They invite to kindly note, right? Kindly be advised that this is an open request for quotations, which doesn't require you as a service provider to be in scope or expertise of the product requested. Have you ever? So let's think about this logically. So the Department of Labor, right, is requiring whatever services or supply of or delivery of whatever product. And instead of them approaching, right, accredited service providers, they're just going to send out an invite from to anyone and then tell those individuals that, hey, we're looking for someone to supply us with this type of material. It's okay if you're not an expert, you can just hire someone else to do the job. We'll pay you and you'll pay a third party. Have you ever heard of something so ridiculous? No, does not make any sense, right? So that's another reason that you kind of see that, hey, this makes no sense. And then, of course, our number one, our third identifier, guys, remember the third thing we spoke about? It's always immediate, urgent, 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 right? How to identify a phishing scam? We said when you get a request and it's always urgent. So here we go. Please reply to us with your quotation if you are interested in this project as soon as possible, as it's urgent. Whoa, right? You think to yourself, wow, seriously? When has the Department of Labor actually come up and requested suppliers to be able to provide information for a tender because it's urgent? I mean, seriously, they've got so many possible suppliers. They're not going to be running after people to send them quotations. I mean, they are never short of potential suppliers because people are always trying to do business with government. Hey, so this is already a red flag. Like if it's urgent. So these are the type of things I'm talking about, guys, right? That I'm saying it makes no sense. And another thing, right? Remember when I said to you, look at email addresses, URLs when they're sent to you. So here's the email address, right? grace.mbata@laborproject.org. That already does sound a little bit shady, right? So I'm like, I don't even know if that exists. So what's my next step? I go where? Go to the Department of Labor, right? I go to the Department of Labor. I check their website to see if they've got a a team or a department within the Department of Labor that is called labor projects, right? And then secondly, what can I do? I can go to the Treasury, right? Go to the Treasury website, right? The National Treasury website lists all the tenders that are currently out from each and every department in the country, right? So that's another way to verify if this information is true or not. Because sometimes people will send you documents and the documents look legit because maybe it's from an old tender. All they've done is that they've just taken this PDF document, put it on PDF, convert to Word. They've converted the PDF to Word, and then they've just changed the email addresses and they've changed the date and so forth. And so when they send it to you, it looks legit. So how do you verify? Go to the National Treasury website and verify if that tender exists or not. Okay. And so this is the other example. Well, this one, to be quite honest, as you can see, the 26th of September, fairly recent, right? And it's just, this one a little bit was a bit disheartening for me because I'm like, oh, these scammers have no shame. Now they're using the word of God to actually try and scam people, right? To directly send you email. And you know what I found funny about this when I was talking to my sister? I'm like, it's interesting how this prophet claims to have received, he's received my email in a vision. However, the information that they're writing on the email is actually very generic. They couldn't even give me any personal information to try and actually prove to me that actually this was really a vision. I mean, surely you could be able to give me more information that is more specific, right? If you were able to get my email, like you got an entire email on a vision, and how generic is that? Because I mean, my email address, you can be able to access a person's email address quite easily. So this one was very strange for me a little bit and disheartening because I was like, oh my God, now you're using the word of God in vain. This is horrible, right? But yes, it's just another indicator that um, scammers have no shame and they will do whatever they can to be able to have access to your finances and your personal information. So keep a lookout, guys. Here is another one, right? I got this one from one of our participants on the Money Matters WhatsApp group. If you want to know more about that WhatsApp group where we talk about money, people are able to send more questions about their personal finances and so forth. You can just go on our socials. You'll be able to get the link to the WhatsApp group so that you can join, right? And in this instance, guys, this one was quite interesting. Can you see the email address, right? So, can you see that it's written SARS, right? South African SARS. But I love how my Money Matters colleague or participant actually was smart enough to actually click on the email, because if you don't click on the email, because he clicked on the email so that he could show us that this is another fraudster, because if you don't click on the email, remember, when you get the email, it's only going to write South African SARS. And then, of course, when people hear the word SARS, they start panicking because they're like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's tax season and so then that's how people fall trapped to these kind of scams. But that is why it's important to click on the email, because we all know that, I mean, SARS email is not vero@studioblake.co.za. When? I mean, all government institutions are always gov.za, right? So, firstly, this is already a telltale, like, something's off here, right? Something's off here. And of course, what do they want? As a result, you are entitled to a refund, right, of 8,590 90 rand. And of course, you're gonna get excited because I mean, refund, it means SARS owes me money. Yes, please, I'm clicking on this. That's what normally happens, right? So another thing that people would not notice at that point in time, because they are led by desperation, is the fact that look at this. This is not a rand, hey, right? If this is a SARS email, why are they referencing a currency that is not South African, right? Hey, doesn't make sense. And if you get an email from SARS, SARS surely is not going to say, dear citizen, why would SARS refer to you as a citizen? SARS will probably what? State your name, right? Remember I mentioned that they're not going to use your name, they're going to use generic greetings, hey? That's the one of the six ways to be able to identify a phishing scam. The first one was generic what? Greetings. Isn't this a generic greeting, guys, right? So, dear citizen, and that's a bit weird. I mean, dear citizen. I would have understood if they said, dear customer, dear citizen. We've never actually been on that level with SARS, right? I know it's a government institution, but dear citizen, come on now. But that is another telltale, right? And then let's look at another one. Okay. Here's my email that I got from SARS, right? Here's the notification from SARS. And of course, they've had a nice little attachment that I needed to click on, right? And then I also needed to click here to say SARS e-filing. So these people were a bit smarter in terms of what is it in terms of the right terms to use for this part for this type of phishing email, right? So look at it, guys. So it says yeah, and another telltale. Come on, guys. When would you get a email from a government institution that has spelling errors like this? On behalf, like on behalf, right? And SARS will never refer to me on my first name if this is about my business, right? Firstly, the business name is wrong, right? That's another way I was able to say, this makes no sense. Secondly, why would SARS refer to me via my name if they are contacting me about my business? SARS will always list the company name, firstly, or as attention to the company name. Secondly, they will always reference your company. What is it? The company tax number. They will also reference the company registration number, right? Because that is also a way for you to be able to see that this information is correct. right? So that information is not actually available online, easily available for the scammers. That is why they would use generic information. Because remember when we spoke about the data leak, that's where they get this information. And so they're trying to do their best to try and see if people will fall for the scam, right? And then I told you, I mean, look at this one. At least they use .co.za. You see, SARS e-filing.co.za, but SARS is not at .co.za. It's always got its dot. It's at gov.za, right? Exactly, because it's a government institution. So all these type of things are red flags that you need to keep an eye on and be able to actually identify, right? And of course, spelling errors, right? Then we need to then, of course, be aware of, which are also telltales. Okay. So the last example, right, based on what I've received, here is another one. This one for me, I mean, for me, this one is a little bit funny sometimes when I get these ones, these type of phishing scams, because I'm like, I wonder how many people fall for this scam. Because my question is this: why would you click on a link, right, on an email that portrays a courier company if you know that you're not expecting any parcels, nor where you have you received any information maybe from friends or colleagues or family to say that, hey, I've sent you a parcel and these are the details, right? So why would this like, I don't know, but clearly it works, right? If they are always constantly sending me, because this is not my first email, right? It might be different courier companies that they're trying to actually mimic. And I always wonder to myself, right? Like, why would people click on this link? Because if you know that you're not expecting any items, then why did like it? That's why I'm saying when people are desperate, unfortunately, logic, is not existent. Common sense is not existent anymore because people are just desperate and they just want money. So they are always willing to click and do this and then make themselves vulnerable, right? So this one is a very funny one for me because I'm always wondering. It's the same with the SMSs. You get an SMS to say that you've got a parcel coming, and please click on this link to make a payment. And I'm like, who sent me a parcel? And if you sent me a parcel, why didn't you communicate? Right? Because some people will be like, oh, maybe it's a gift, it's a surprise. No, guys, no, guys, no, guys. We can't be that vulnerable as people. And we can't live in cuckoo land or a fairy tale land where you think such things happen. Yes, people do send you gifts and surprises, of course, but people normally communicate and give you a reference number. I mean, the gift is not you getting a surprise email to say that you are getting a parcel. The parcel itself is the gift, right? Because what is in the parcel is the gift. So there's no need for me to hide, right? That I'm sending you a parcel and then, oopsie, now you're going to receive an email that you were not aware of. No, of course, I'm going to give you some form of notification to say, hey, I've sent you a parcel either for your birthday, Valentine's Day, an anniversary, or so forth, Christmas, or any other holiday, right? And I will communicate and give you some form of reference number and even give you the information as to which organization or service provider did I use to send you this said parcel. So we can't fall trap to this kind of scam, guys. Come on, because logic actually says, how are you receiving a parcel if you did not get any form of communication from anyone that you are going to be receiving a parcel? It's the same as the lottery ticket, right? Like, how are you expected to win a lottery if you don't have a ticket? That's not how the lotto works, right? You need to play the lotto and actually have a ticket. Then, if you have the ticket, your numbers need to match, and so forth and so forth. So that is why I'm saying that unfortunately, when people are desperate, it's like logic just goes out the window, and then people just fall trapped to these type of scams, right? And then now I wanted to look at these examples of phishing scams, right? I went on Google, and I actually looked at, and then I want us to look at these phishing scams, looking at specific ones, and these specific ones would be around what do you call this? The examples around. these top phishing scams that people have fallen trap to. And just to recap, you know, the examples that I just went through is that, of course, fake alerts is another one. Okay. The fake alerts one is because I've deleted them so many times. Is I got one from Netflix, right? Where they're claiming that my Netflix account has been cancelled because there's been a breach. And it was so funny when I got that email because I was actually watching Netflix and I'm like, how is this possible? Because my Netflix is working and I'm actually watching an episode right now. What do you mean? Right. So that was another way for me to be like, "Ugh, scammers, right?" And another thing, guys, you know that when you register, be it for Netflix, you register for any of these service providers, right? Your banks and your anything, there's a specific email that you've given them for you to be able to receive and you communicate with them. That's another way to tell if the information that you're receiving is fake or not. Because if your normal communication channel with your bank is via a email address, maybe a Yahoo email, because that was the Yahoo email you've registered. But all of a sudden, your bank is now sending you emails on Gmail, and you're like, who gave you my Gmail account? Because I've always communicated with you with Yahoo. Banks don't do that. They will always use the channel of communication that you provided. So that's another way for you to tell that this is fake, this is a lie, this is a scam, right? So don't fall trap to these little fake alerts that want to put you in a panic and a frenzy so that you can click and on the links. And like I said, the goal of phishing is to what? To get you click on links. Click on links, give you information. Click on links and give them your information. And that's the only way they are able to succeed. So don't fall trap to it. Don't panic and don't click on anything, right? Another one, of course, I showed you the tax compliance scams, right? So this one is very it's quite topical during tax season, and that's how they get a lot of people during this time because they know that people are busy panicking trying to file their taxes, right? And another example, tech support scam. Okay, this one was very scary for me because I even had to contact my service provider and let them know that, guys, like, I'm receiving so many phishing emails regarding my account, and it was worrying me, especially because the emails were saying that my business website is hacked and so forth. And so the tech guys then they asked me to forward them the emails I received, and they were able to actually increase like the firewalls on my website and also try and help me block these emails that I'm getting, right, from these solicitors to try and actually defraud me and my company. So this tech scam is also a good one that they use because once these scammers maybe get wind of what your service provider is, and of course, sometimes it's always like a guessing game, right? I mean, depending on where you live, there are always popular service providers that people would normally use in terms of reliability, and it's always based on the area. Because I mean, if you Google a particular area and find out which fiber providers that particular area can actually use, then it can probably give you a list, right, of these possible users. So sometimes, you know, these scams can be targeted, right, be based on information that people might know and try to use that information to actually defraud you. Another one, like I told you, the prize and sweepstakes scams, right? So guys, like I said, if it's too good to be true, it normally is. How can you win a lottery jackpot if you've never played the lottery, right? You don't have a ticket. How are you going to claim for this money, right? And so it doesn't make sense. It really does not make sense. So like I said, think about it. Does it make sense? Use logic, right? Rationalize your decision making first before you click on any link. And then business email compromise, right? So basically, business email compromise, this is in this instance where they would actually target organizations, right? And try and get information form those particular organizations, right? So that they can probably process invoices and just full employees within that organization to be able to get information and access to the company accounts, right? And I've got an excellent example that I'm going to show you guys that I found on Google regarding all these large scams that have been done over the years, right? Specifically the phishing scams. So streaming service scams, like I mentioned, they would have your different subscriptions that they will send you. Basically, they'll try. Normally, a lot of people have Netflix, especially in South Africa. People have Netflix, Showmax. So when you get an email, where people are pretending to be from Netflix, telling your account has been blocked, and so forth, trying to get you to make payments, right? So this is another good scam that they actually use that people normally fall trap to. Right. So I wanted us to go through these famous phishing scams because it sounds very silly, but it happened, guys. It happened. So here, so in 2013/2015, right, up to 2015, for 2 years, right, this Lithuanian hacker tricked Facebook and Google employees into paying fake invoices by posing as a hardware supplier. Guys, can you imagine? Over 2 years, he stole over $100 million from these tech giants. So, can you imagine, like, who are we as mere mortals and individuals, right? If I mean these scammers get to a point where when they can fool Facebook and Google, one of the largest, right? They are literally one of the largest tech giants. Globally. So if they could be scammed, I mean, who are we? But like we're all individuals at the end of the day, guys. And what is the name, the trick of the game? Get you to click on links and provide information, right? So basically, this scammer, what did he do? He probably got one of the employees, right? He's got one of the employees to click on a link and got access to that information. Then now that he's got access to this information, he was able to then create invoices, right? And send them to either Facebook and Google between the two. And part of those invoices then led to the companies losing over $100 million. All right. So being vigilant is very important, be it on your personal capacity, business wise, or as when you are working as an employee, right? Here's another good one. So I'm not sure if a lot of people would remember this one where Google Docs phishing scam. So this was a widespread scam involved attackers sending emails that appeared to be Google Docs sharing notification. Oh, this one was scary. I remember Kim Kardashian or something. Yeah, and some of the celebrities were actually duped with the scam, right? And they fell victim to the scam, and they got their Google Docs actually hacked, and these hackers then were trying to they leaked some of the information, and they also then were threatening to leak more information and wanted payment and so forth. But you see, ideally, what are they trying to do? They get you to click on a link, and what people do is click on the link. So try by all means to verify before you click on any links, guys. And here's another one, right? Here's another one, the DocuSign phishing scam, right? So DocuSign, this one is tricky because I mean DocuSign, that's just basically how DocuSign works. You get an email alerting you that there's a document that you need to sign, and then you click on the document, right? And you click on the link, it takes you to the website with the document that you need to sign, read, confirm, and sign. So it's normal practice for you. It requires, I mean, an actual DocuSign email would require you to click on the link. So this one was a tricky one, guys. This one was a tricky one. I would actually love to see the actual email to see if you click on the URL of that email, if the email address was really DocuSign, or was it referencing some other email address in not actually the DocuSign, because that's part of the due diligence that you'd have to do. And of course, with these type of systems that require you to click on links for you to access the system, to process a payment, to process something, it's good to actually Verify, guys, because you don't just get an email. For example, DocuSign, it will tell you that so and so has sent you this document, right? So it will reference that who sent you this document. So if it's referencing a name you are not familiar with, right, that's already a red flag. Then why don't you then, of course, interrogate the information in front of you? So why would you be receiving documents to sign from people that don't exist within your organization? So we just need to be very vigilant, guys, because this is how we fall trapped to these type of scams, right? And then the last one was the Twitter Bitcoin scam, right? Which happened just fairly recently in 2020. And hackers used social engineering to gain access to internal tools at Twitter. They then took over high-profile accounts, including those of Elon Musk, Barack Obama, and Bill Gates, to promote a Bitcoin scam. The hackers tweeted promises of doubling any Bitcoin sent to a specific wallet. Many users fell for it, and the scammers received over $100,000 in Bitcoin before the attack was stopped. So isn't it interesting, right? Especially that what they actually did was they hacked these prominent individuals' accounts, because then they use those accounts to send messages on their Twitter accounts to seem as if they are actually advocating for this particular Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin transaction or investment opportunity. So now that you're saying, oh, Barack Obama is actually backing this, oh, definitely. Oh, wow, Bill Gates is a millionaire, is a billionaire. So definitely going to invest in that, right? Oh, here's another billionaire, Elon Musk. I'm definitely investing in that. So that's basically the reason they use those individuals, because these are prominent people, and you would actually believe, if Barack Obama comes in and says the world is ending tomorrow, right? People are going to be like, is he crazy or is this true, right? Because of the kind of person that you're engaging with. I mean, Elon Musk, what is he doing now? Trying to get to space and all the things that he's trying to do, right? So if he comes to us and tells us that, oh my God, guys, this is happening, or the Martians are coming, right? Aliens are coming. Of course, people are going like, whoa, Elon Musk is trying to get us to space. This is probably why we're probably going to believe it, right? Some people are not, some people will. So they actually utilize these prominent individuals' names to try and actually get the scam working, and that's how they got away with over $100,000, right? So what are the takeaways that we need to actually think around? And any questions, like I mentioned, that you need to just contact us on our socials and be able to actually link up with us and converse with us regarding money and money matters. You can also join our WhatsApp group. And just to end off, guys, remember I mentioned, right? Look at the 6 ways that you can be able to identify a phishing scam, right? And then, of course, what is the purpose of the phishing scam, or the main goal of a phishing scam is for you to click on the link, right? And provide your information. So if you don't do so, then it means that particular scam is not going to work, because you have stopped the scammers from proceeding any further, just by not giving them the opportunity of clicking on the link on your end, right? So please, guys, stay vigilant, stay aware, and just also continue being smart when it comes to your money, and don't fall trap to any of these scams. Thanks and goodbye.